are winning.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tigers Down Under. I'm your host Alex, and with me today I have Dan. How are you, Dan?
Look, I'm pretty good. I've avoided all of the wild and woolly weather, really up here. So, I'm flooded in at the moment, but I'm safe and healthy, so it's all good. Pantry's still stocked, so we're good.
That's the main thing. Haven't washed away. I actually kind of lost track of that with Brisbane and stuff. Because did they actually end up getting hit at all? Because I know it kind of kept getting delayed and everything else, but did you get much rain?
I think the biggest impact that we have, and it's kind of normally what happens, is that where I am is quite close to like a pretty major river, and so normally the biggest issue is that all the stuff comes downstream and then just fills it up, and we flood sort of that way more than like we have had probably a couple hundred, 200 or 300 mils probably over the last 4 days or something. But it was a weird one. I think like Brisbane and that did eventually sort of cop it. It's been basically since it transformed from a tropical cyclone into just a tropical low system, where once it's made landfall and dumped all its rain, there's been some pretty crazy stuff. I think Hervey Bay's copped a battering today, or over the last couple of days. But look, it's a wild thing. There's a lot of hype around it, and media.
Yeah,
I don't think went crazy, but it was.
I feel like
some people went crazy.
Yeah, they were hoping for more than eventuated. I think they're a little bit disappointed in the end, but that's all right. We can talk City. We don't have to be too much of the weather channel. A good couple of results for City over the last few days. Starting off with that 2-0 win over Plymouth, which I don't know if it's one of the more unexpected results of the season, just in terms of how comfortable it ended up being. Like, not even facing a shot until the 80th minute was. Certainly went a long way to making it feel a much more comfortable result, I guess.
Yeah, I think, we're kind of maintaining the form of, like a sort of win-loss kind of trend with this one. But I think sort of one of those games that probably had me quite worried because it was, against a quote-unquote relegation rival, even though Plymouth is travelling recently anyway, traveling pretty well. That I thought this was the sort of game where we would, fumble the chance and find ourselves mired back in that battle. But I think we seem to. I didn't get to watch much of this one. I had to go to work. Stupid midweek games. But I think,
and both goals came in the second half, didn't they?
I think so, yeah. So I don't have much opinion.
That's a great
much to talk about. But I think they like the way that I think even the Bristol game, the way that we have set up, structurally and gone about the game, I think we're starting to, there's been calls recently for more consistency in that approach, more consistency in the performances, and I think certainly these two games I think demonstrate that. A real commitment to the cause and a real positive, attitude, strong defensively, and, creating some really nice attacking play going forward. So I think there's a lot of positives to take out of these two games. Obviously 4 points is really good, but in terms of close analysis of the game, player of the matches, anything like that, I've got almost nothing for you. I'm just here to bounce ideas off.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Like, I think, like you say, it is interesting because in a lot of ways it was a similar first half to the Cardiff game where chances were. It might be a bit harsh to say chances were at a premium. I did feel like we created a lot more in this game than we did against Cardiff, and I know there's been a lot of concern between City supporters that we're not scoring enough goals and not creating enough chances in recent games, despite, looking pretty good against Stoke, for example. We did create a lot there. But I thought in this game, Hughes creating a few chances, getting forward, looking really dangerous. I thought, from set pieces, we were proving a threat, which was somewhat surprising given the physicality, I guess, the Plymouth defenders have been renowned for. And, I forget what his name is, scored against Man City in the FA Cup. One of their centre backs, I think. But I think also what helped us was I think a few early yellow cards for their fullbacks meant that Joseph playing out wide, a bit of an unusual spot for him, I think was able to run at the defence a bit more than he otherwise would have been able to. And I actually thought, look, I think we talked a few times about how he really just needs to get off the mark and score a goal to get that confidence going. But I think his general play still looks really sharp, and he contributes a lot in terms of his press and his running and ball at feet. Like, he looks really confident a lot of the time. Like, he does remind me a lot of Delap. He just doesn't seem to have that sharpness in front of goal to finish things off at the moment.
Yeah, I think now that you talked about the early yellow cards, I now remember the centre back or whatever coming out and bullying. I think it might have been Joseph on that left wing early in that, only about, was it 15 or 20 minutes in? It felt like it was really early for that yellow that he got. But yeah, I think I mean, again, we're like ruining freaking ACL injuries. I just think Matazo a couple of weeks ago, that's a killer again. But Puerta back in the middle, Alzate looking, I guess, back to, he had like a little bit of a dip for a few weeks, but I think he's back to sort of that really nice, calm, controlling influence that he has been for us. So I think, I guess, we're now, obviously it takes a little bit of time for managers to, come in and, figure out the best, best players in position within their system and the ones that are, take on the advice and take on the instructions the best. So I think it's obviously been a little bit of tinkering and playing around, and I think we're getting close. And it's a shame it's right at the end of we're in the last quarter of the season, but to finding sort of that best 11, best combination to start games. So I think, obviously there's positives. It obviously means we get to finish strongly, but I think, it'd be really nice to see, Joseph get off the mark soon. I mean, as we'll probably talk about soon, he might have a couple of games where he's going to be the man to have to do it. So,
Yeah.
But I do think also, we talked about a few weeks ago the Egan signing and stuff, and I said, it seems weird, if when Hughes comes back and it's supposed to be soon, it's going to look like why did we even bother signing? And I mean, at the moment, it certainly looks like that because it's Charlie Hughes. He does not look like he's missed a beat, and he's been out for a couple of months or something with a hamstring injury. So he's come back in and just really made a huge difference, I think, defensively, organizationally. I think we've done enough when we've been thin with the squad to scrounge sort of a reasonably safe, even if underwhelming position. That I think now that we have most of our the spine, I think most of the spine of the team is here and good, that I think we should feel reasonably confident going into the last handful of games, this last run of games, that we're not going to find ourselves in the bottom three. So, and I think that's, at this stage, that's obviously the most important thing. That's the goal, is just avoid that.
I think that's it. And and as you say there, it is, I guess, what's so rewarding about that win against Plymouth is we've seen in recent years, we get into this position with a squad. I'm thinking some of our Premier League seasons in particular, but then also at various points more recently, where we seem to assemble a really good squad or a reasonable squad, but then we don't really get to see its potential lived out because, either we suffer a relegation and we get picked apart, or what happened after last season where loanees go back and players get sold to balance the books, where it feels for the first time in a long time, now that we're on the verge of safety, that we can almost look ahead to next season with confidence and say, we'll actually have a pretty stable squad. We've got some really good building blocks here, which I don't think are going to get sold too quickly. Unless someone comes in with a crazy bid for a Hughes or someone like that, I can't imagine any of these. Because Balumi, who I think was our other really good signing, has been out injured, so no one's going to be really gambling on him at this stage. I think we've got at least next season to sort of look at what we can do and develop with this squad and with this manager, where I don't think Adjun's going to do what he did after last season and turf say us out. So it gives us, for the first time in what feels a long time, that sort of continuity of not just manager but squad as well. And you sort of think under Adjun in particular, like every window we sign so many players, to have that ability to sort of stabilize the squad, stabilize the manager, and actually see what we can do with progress and stability will actually be quite exciting. And so that's where I don't think it can be underlined like how significant winning this game was, where it does feel in recent years this is the sort of game that has been the pressure game and we've lost it, and then we've gone, okay, well, just got to rip up the paper and start again next season just about. And ironically, it was Plymouth last season that beat us on the final day to condemn us to missing the playoffs, so to speak. So I think it was a terrific result, and that's with a huge dose of luck. Like both goals, first goal was onside, but with the deflection that meant that everyone else was wrong-footed. He like first viewing, watching it live, I thought he was definitely offside just because no one kind of went with him, but he was just on his toes, played the ball well, and slotted past the keeper really well. Then the second goal was definitely offside for Pedro. But we've had so much bad luck this season. I'm thinking back to Pedro's first goal that got ruled out against, I think it was Norwich. And Kamara, I think, had a goal ruled out in one of those games as well. So, like, there's been a few, dodgy offsides against us that shouldn't have been given. So we basically got a bit of luck in this one. Kamara with the over-the-top celebrations as he wants to do it. Oh, he just seems like it. I don't know if it doesn't help. I don't think when people sort of criticize him for not caring and then you don't get much of a celebration from him. I'm like, come on, just give a fist bump or something just to show a bit of enthusiasm. But probably a bit lucky with both goals, but we take it.
I had a coach once who told us that he didn't want to. We weren't allowed to celebrate goals because celebrating it made it seem like it was a big deal, and it shouldn't be a big deal. Like we should be scoring goals. It should just be run of the mill, like part of the course. Like it's a part of our expectation as players. And this is at like fucking Sunday league, so maybe he just has that mindset where he's like, this is just another game. It's not like I'm scoring in a final or like a huge, so it's not really worth not worth celebrating. It's not the right way to put it, but you know what I mean. Like maybe it's just I don't know.
Who was it? Was it Balotelli who said, the postman doesn't celebrate delivering the mail? So it's that mentality.
Maybe Balotelli's his idol. Who knows?
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, I'll give votes for the game, and you don't need to if you don't want to. But I was going to give the 3 votes to Hughes for this one. I thought, as you say, like it looks like he hasn't missed a beat. I thought he looked really terrific at centre back, and also created a lot of chances for us, which was a really impressive performance of him. And he's still only, I think, 21 or something like that. Like he's really young, so he's stepped into that void from Greaves so effortlessly, and it's exciting to see what. Hopefully he can put a full season together next season, and we can see what he's fully capable of. Puerta for the 2 votes. I think it was interesting when he wasn't playing and there was all this conspiracy around his contract and everyone kind of went, he's not actually that good. We're only saying he's good because he's not playing and blah, blah, blah. He's come in and looked terrific. Like both this game and the Bristol City game, I think he's just about the most dynamic of the 3 midfielders. So I thought, again, in this one, he's passed as much as it was offside to Pedro. Like he's looking up, he's playing those passes between the lines. He's looking to get the ball forward really well. I thought he was terrific. And then I went Coyle for the 1 vote. I actually thought Coyle, I was looking at some of the stats for the game. He was like the standout in a number of the statistical categories. I thought he didn't put a foot wrong. Clearly likes playing Plymouth after scoring that worldie against them at the start of the season. And I think he's come in for a lot of criticism lately. And so I think it's worth sort of giving him a bit of recognition when he deserves it.
Yeah, certainly. I don't really have anything to add.
No, that's fine.
So
all good.
I've barely got suggestions for the Bristol game. So I'll tell you. Look, you and me both. I'll suggest who I think.
I think with the Bristol game, we can. I think there's been a few images going around on the net to emphasize just how much this second half in this game basically didn't happen for City. I think I suggested, if we completed 16 passes for the game, perhaps we should spend some time on the podcast going through each of those 16 passes to analyze them. But we won't go to that level of detail.
I think they're only second half stats, that image. So I think it's only 16.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Yeah. Just the 16 passes in the second half. But look, to be fair with this game, and we said it at the time, like we actually started the game really, really well. Like it's sort of lost in what happened after the red card, but I actually thought we were very deserving of the lead and actually looked very dangerous in those opening 10-15 minutes of the game, and looked really up for it.
Yeah, I think Pedro, the hero and the villain of this story.
Yeah.
I think like the turn and the finish, just
Oh,
sublime.
so
Just
good.
a great finish. Great piece of play. I think a great ball through from Puerta to Kamara, and Kamara just just plays it simple, plays it like quick and early to Pedro. And so that was great. But I think you're right. We were dominating them in that 15 minutes or whatever it was up until that goal. They barely had the ball at all, and they barely had it out of their half when they did have it. So it actually felt like when we got that goal early, I thought, we're actually going to put a score on here. It felt like we were just going to. We were playing so well, and even for the few minutes after that goal, before or like the brief amount of time, I was like, no, we'll be fine. We're going to be fine here. I felt like we're just going to go and we'd get another one in another 10 minutes, and it ended up reasonably comfortable. They didn't really look like they were posing much threat at all, but obviously, unfortunately, Pedro with a bit of a rash piece of decision making, I guess, defensively. And it's one of those things. It's like it's the classic strikers challenge. Like, you go on another day, we're willing to praise the work that Pedro's doing to get back and help out the defense. And so I don't want to be too critical overall. I just think like it was not a good challenge. He's lucky that he didn't make more concrete contact. Otherwise, it could have been pretty dangerous for the Bristol player.
They're very fortunate. And I think your point there around the contact's a really good one to emphasize, because we're seeing a lot of City supporters calling it a soft red card or saying it shouldn't have been a red card, like talking about we should appeal it and stuff. And I just think when you actually I think there's so much focus on the outcome, not the intent or not the action. And the suspension and the card are because of the action. And just, if you swing a punch on a football field and miss, you're still swinging a punch. Like, you're still going to get a red card. It's still violent conduct. And that's actually what, we were talking before the episode about whether it's a 1-game or a 3-game ban. And I think it does fall under violent conduct. So I think you're right. I think it is a 3-game ban, even though I think it would be a 1-game ban if it was called a professional foul. But a professional foul to me is like last man pulling the shirt back sort of thing. I think this is violent conduct.
Yeah, I would say so. Because I've seen lots of people talking about appealing this, and my initial thought is like, on what grounds are you going to appeal it? Like,
you could probably maybe get it downgraded to 2 just because he's pulled out. He's tried to mitigate it.
That's what I was thinking. Like maybe you can get it reduced, the suspension length reduced from a 3, but then you've got to you would then have to be able to satisfactorily, obviously, prove that the challenge isn't reckless. It's whatever the next, whatever the other, the next word is. It's not dangerous. It's reckless. Or it's not reckless. It's something else. And I think that's going to be pretty difficult. Just because
you see some of the images,
action,
it's just
I think,
crazy.
They look. It feels like one of those ones where I don't know where I actually can't tell whether it looks worse than it is or if it looks exactly as bad as it is.
Yeah.
Because the images are shocking. He's both feet off the ground and flying through the air, and I'm like, this can't be like a camera trick, surely.
No.
But that's probably, look, not great from Pedro. But I feel like, did he get suspended? Did he do something dumb earlier in the season? Did he get another suspension at some point in his first few games for something really like an elbow or a headbutt or something stupid? Or am I thinking of...
You might be thinking of Oscar. Oscar got that high boot.
Oh, yeah.
It does sound familiar. I'm going to have a look while we talk. And you know what? I'm going to Google Joao Pedro, and it's going to give me the bloody Brighton player, which is not going to help. Hull City Red. But yeah.
But anywho, it's not great. But, as always, that decision from Pedro just opens the door for, like Joseph to come in, players that in that, more central position. And it obviously then opens the door up for someone else to come in on the wing and have a go. So it is what it is. But I think after that, obviously, the game lost a lot of interest. For me, unfortunately, it became sort of a game where I was going, well, I just don't know if with 70 minutes of regular time to go, we're going to be able to hold on. And so I sort of, began to doze and drift in and out of the game. But I think, in a general sense, we're, talking about the influence of Charlie Hughes organizationally and defensively, and I think what it ended up being Bristol, just beginning to dominate with wave after wave of attack, which is completely understandable. That I think we did exceptionally well, and I haven't actually seen what happened. I don't really remember what happened for the penalty, but it sounds like it wasn't much.
It was basically Jones and the Bristol City player got generously saying tangled up. I mean, there's definitely some sort of contact from Jones on the Bristol City player, whether it's enough for a penalty. It's one of those ones where I think if it's given, VAR doesn't overturn it because there's probably not, it doesn't meet that threshold. So it's not like it's a complete crime of a penalty, but it's definitely on the softer end. But it's one of those ones as well where I feel like if they hadn't got that penalty, they would have kept pushing for a goal and got it another way, potentially. I don't know, because I'm sure they were pushing for a winner as well. So hard to say. But I mean, I thought Panda did brilliantly to keep us in the game, regardless. But to get out of that game with a point, given the absolute domination on the statistics in that second half, is crazy.
Yeah, I think, which is kind of the point I was trying to get to. That when you've got Hughes comes in, does all his work defensively, gets everyone organized. Everyone's, the 10 blokes on the field are all committed to the cause and know that after 20 minutes they go, well, we just have to dig in and take whatever we can get out of this game. And I think, everyone did their jobs exceptionally well. Panda, I saw some great saves and some great goalkeeping from him in some of the highlights and things that have been released. So, like, he is really just... I guess he continues to surprise me. I just, because he is a young keeper, and I don't think there be many keepers as young as him in the championship. But I could be wrong. But he's only like 22 or 23 or something, I think.
20. Yeah, let me look that up. Something like that. 24, maybe.
Yeah. Which I feel, and you go, well, goalkeepers are, mature a little bit later or whatever.
24.
Their prime is normally,
late 20s.
Late 20s. So you go, well, if he's this good now, I just, and I think back to our preseason crossover where we were talking about players who are going to be most improved and and there was a lot of Panda had looked shocking in the preseason games, and we're all going, well, surely he's not going to get worse than, he's got to get better. And I think, there were shouts for him becoming most improved. And I mean, he set the bar low in the preseason, but geez, it's going to be hard to top next season. I guess that's his challenge now, is just to try and maintain the high level of performance that he's producing at the moment, because
I think that's the appeal with someone like him, is that he should be the sort of player that, in theory, organically develops and grows and gets better with the side. And if we did end up getting promoted, he's not. It's goalkeeper wouldn't be the sort of position we go, oh well, we have to get a better keeper. He's young enough that you go, give him a chance to develop, and he could actually end up being a decent keeper at that level. Rather than, it's not like he's 34 or something, and you go, oh no, we need to get a new one. Like if we still had Allsop, for example.
Yeah, no, I think he's done really, really well, and obviously another really strong performance in this game. And I think I don't know. I guess it just comes back to the conversation we we're having just before about the squad and stuff. And just these couple of games, I guess, really do highlight where we're at the moment. And I guess that you're right, that sort of sense of stability where most of the players that are performing for us are on contracts, and we've either got the option to add a year option or whatever, or because I think of the starting 11, Puerta's on a loan, and I don't know whether I'm not sure what sort of options are there.
Well, and that's where it's going to be interesting now as well.
And that's about it. And then you got Egan, who's the other loanee on the bench, and then who else is even on loan?
Well, I guess like Lincoln. Oh,
Finn
Gelhardt.
Burns. Oh yeah,
Gelhardt.
Gelhardt.
Gelhardt's
Yeah,
probably the main one where I think if we stay, like, if Sasha
he's
miss
one that
out.
he's probably the one that you really want to try and get back. I guess like if in like the off season you got Puerta and Gelhardt back.
Zambrano, if he's able to play, is the other one on loan, but I don't know if we care about getting him back.
Is he on loan? Didn't we?
Yeah.
I thought we.
Well, so I think we've bought, like, there's been report, like Ecuador newspapers saying we've bought him, but like nothing official to say we've bought him. I think because his appeal is literally like, I think it's this week, to get it reduced to basically mean that he'd be available from the start of preseason. I would assume if that's successful, we will say, yep, we've bought him. And if it's unsuccessful, maybe I don't know what we do.
Or because was he on?
Because he was on loan. He was definitely on loan. It was like a loan. I don't know if it was an obligation. I think it was just a loan, but with a an option to buy.
Yeah, right.
Because what it's so like you said, so it's Finn Burns, it's Zambrano, it's Puerta, it's Lincoln, it's Louis Barry, and it's Gelhardt.
Yeah, well,
which like it's in a way like it's really good that the loanees by and large aren't the players we're relying on. It's not like last season where it's really just Gelhardt. Where if we had to say if we could only have one of them back, you turn Gelhardt into a permanent. The rest, Puerta and stuff would be great, but if we lose them, it's not like losing Delap. It's like
and I think like Gelhardt. Yes, we have to pay something. We'll have to pay some money for Gelhardt, but I don't think
it'd be crazy. Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that dear. It might be a couple of mil or whatever.
Yeah.
If that, maybe a mil and a half or something. But like he's performing for us, but he's not all. He's like doing great.
He wasn't even playing for Leeds. Like it's not like he was.
Yeah, barely playing for Leeds. He's not necessarily. He's not a world. He's not like a world. He's not just suddenly like set the championship alight. But he is just, he's chipping in with goals. And so I think that's kind of like the perfect situation for us where, yes, he's contributing to our team, but he's not necessarily like, hitting the highlights packages every week. I
think I'd put him in, I'd put him in the same category as like a Slater. Like he's a better player than Slater, but he's in that category of like, I don't think there'd be half the championship chasing him, but he's performing really well for us. So his value to us is almost more than it is to Leeds or any other club, Same with someone like Slater, where you go, he plays a lot for us, but I can't see many championship clubs paying big fees to us for him. So it's like it's more valuable to us to just keep the player.
Yeah.
Like that sort of category. Yeah.
And I think, with the position Leeds are in, where is there really? He's been loaned out this season, the championship. Is there much of a future there for him? Anyway, so I think we've got to hopefully this 6 months ticks all the boxes and we can get him back. On a deal next year. But I think overall 4 really positive points from 2 I think challenging games for different reasons. And I guess, just finally some consistency in performance between consecutive games where it seems like we've been very up and down for a little while. To have 2
as much
games
as Pedro tried to disrupt that.
But I think it's a real credit to the team to have that sort of a huge block obstacle or whatever thrown in front of them mid-game and to be able to stick to those principles, stick to the plan. Or probably not even stick to plan, make a whole new plan 20 minutes in and carry that out, almost to a T, where the only Bristol gets a penalty, whatever. It's like, it's a nothing goal. I'm not even worried about that. I think you're probably right. The amount of shots they were taking and some of the saves that Panda was having to pull off were miraculous. And you go, well, how could he have maintained that for another, 20 minutes? Or would one of them have snuck in? Who knows? But look, I just think I'm pretty happy with how they've gone over the last couple of games, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I gave Panda the 3 votes for this one for that reason. I think he was, the standout player for us in that sense. Kamara for the 2, the assist for Pedro, and I thought once the red card took place, it was probably not quite his game because he didn't really have that ability to get up the pitch as much. But I thought he stuck in as required. I did give the 1 vote to Pedro because I would have probably given him the 3 votes, if not for the red card. So I'm sort of deducting 2 points for the red card. I just can't not give him a vote given the fact that his goal was so brilliantly taken. So I had to go there. Did you have votes for this one, or
they probably would have been quite similar. I had decided on a 3 and a 1, and they were the same. I had Panda for 3, and I was going Pedro for 1 for pretty much the same reason. The goal got us in a position to where we probably could have won had we been able to carry on. But and then I'm not sure. The 2 maybe I'll just go someone like Hughes. I've talked him up, and he's been pretty solid.
No, good shout. Well, look, we've got Oxford midweek. I think it's Thursday morning for this one, and then West Brom this weekend. We can talk about the games as a collective. It does feel as if we're kind of verging on territory where we can say, if not mathematically that we're safe, that we're putting enough teams between us and the bottom 3 to be safe in reality. I think particularly the Oxford game is a huge one from that perspective. I think if we can get the 3 points against them, we go above them. That's another team below us all of a sudden, a team that's not picking up that many wins or points. Like, they started really well under Rowett, but they've only got 2 wins in their last 10 games now. And a West Brom side as well. Like, I was looking at the 10-game form table just to sort of get a perspective on, because I think we're up in 10th from a 10-game form table. So, like, it shows, to your point, like, yes, maybe game to game we don't have that consistency, but it shows that over that stretch of games we are actually, quietly putting together a pretty decent run of form, with a couple of pretty important wins in there. West Brom are, I think, 9th in the form table over the same period. So in that sense, you could almost say like a pretty similar side to us, in terms of how they're going under Tony Mowbray. But I think that game's presumably, I think it's a 2 a.m. game, Saturday night. But yeah, I think almost identical to the previous week with Plymouth and Bristol City. It's really, get the points against Oxford, and then anything against West Brom's kind of a bonus. But I would say, if we can beat Oxford, you don't want to jinx things. You don't want to, get too ahead of yourself. But I would be starting to think that we're basically safe.
Look, I'm not quite as confident mathematically as you are just yet, but I think certainly the 3 points, if we can get up over Oxford, obviously, goes a huge way. I don't know if I'd be quite content to declare it after a win against Oxford, but I'd be pretty close. I think, like, it wouldn't take much more for me to be willing. I just think maybe just still a bit too far from the end. And like, I just think our luck with injuries this season has been horrendous, and anything could happen.
It's a tactical red card for Pedro means he can't get injured.
I mean, maybe that's all it is. But what's it? 3 ACL injuries in one season? Like, that's like unheard of. It's insane. So and that's not even like that. If you go to the other club that I follow, there's another 1 or 2 there. So it's mental.
That's crazy. I feel like it is just going. It's everywhere in football now.
Anywho, I think I reckon, like, definitely, I reckon 3 points definitely from these 2 games. I think, like, Oxford, I think we've got 2 really positive performances. 4 good points on the board over the last 2. We go into the game with, I'd say, reasonably confident, and with 2 strong performances behind it. So I think we're really starting to build that consistency. So I'd say 3 points against Oxford, and then sort of, as you say, whatever you can take against West Brom. I'm probably less confident about that, even despite the form table stuff. I just feel like they're a team that seems to always. I just feel like we don't have a good run against West Brom. So
there was that game. Was it 2 years ago under Arsenio where like Tete scored some crazy goal? Where I think we won like 2-0, and it was completely undeserved. But you're right. Like, other than that, I can't think of too many good performances.
So like, if we got another 4 points, I'd probably be pretty ecstatic. But I think, like, I think the West Brom game will be tough. I think that game probably particularly is a game where we're probably going to miss someone like Pedro with that little bit of nous and intelligence and physicality up front, more than not that Joseph isn't good, doesn't have good skills and attributes. I just think a game like that against probably some good experienced championship defenders, that I think someone like Pedro would have been a really big asset to have in that game. But who knows? Maybe we will appeal. We'll get downgraded to a 1-match suspension and he'll be available anyway. Who knows? But yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, like the thing to keep in mind as well with Cardiff and Luton playing each other midweek, so one of them will pick up some form of points. Portsmouth playing Plymouth's probably the other one where, if Portsmouth now see themselves as safe and maybe to take the foot off the gas a little bit, but Plymouth themselves just seemed like they lost pretty comprehensively on the weekend to Wednesday. They seem to be sort of collapsing in a heap following their FA Cup endeavors and starting to maybe overexert themselves a little bit. You start to think if we do get 4 points or even 3 points, sort of as you're suggesting, you're starting to put that much more of a gap to the bottom three. With after these 2 games, there'll only be 8 games left to play. It does start to make things look pretty interesting. So I guess we had Joseph playing on the left against Bristol City. So if we're assuming he'll shift up top for Pedro, is it as simple as just someone like a Lincoln, I guess, comes into the starting 11 for these ones?
Probably. I don't really. What other options have we got? Because Barry's out.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you'd be really scraping the barrel and going with...
It'd be probably a young...
Vaughan.
Someone. Yeah.
Yeah, Vaughan, maybe.
Yeah, look, it's
Slater.
Probably. Oh, mate, stranger things have happened. Look, he's practically a veteran on the left wing after his time in a City shirt. But, yeah, probably Lincoln is the one who comes in. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. He showed some nice touches and nice involvements the other week. So, just again, it's an opportunity for someone to come in and stake a claim and show what they're about. So,
and I think, if there's any silver lining to all these injuries, it is that, and suspensions, is that next season we'll have had such exposure to players in different positions, and hopefully, with a bit more luck on our side with injuries and everything else, you're suddenly looking at like a pretty fit squad where you've got a lot of options across the park, but sort of clinging to the silver linings for this sort of stuff. Yeah, actually, it's a good shout from Danny, one that I hadn't thought of, but you could play Gelhardt up top as a striker. But then, you means you'd have Joseph back on the wing, and I don't know if Joseph's necessarily naturally a winger. But yeah, you could do Lincoln and Kamara on the wings, and potentially Gelhardt up top.
Do you just, because it's kind of been a bit of a it's almost been a 2 up top kind of deal, sort of anyway. And so do you just go crazy and you put like Gelhardt and Joseph
like Cook,
up,
or like Crooks and Gelhardt? You got like big man, little man.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like there's like a bit of a height difference with those two. Yeah.
It's a good shout.
Or Joseph, because he's pretty big.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I probably don't. I don't know. I don't see probably too many changes in system and stuff. So it's probably whatever as close as we can get to like for like, I think is probably what's going to happen. I can't see him wanting to shift too much around. And while Gelhardt may be a striker, I think he's been playing pretty well.
In that 10
from a wider sort of
8. Because I think they said that for the Bristol City game, it's only the second time Sayers was able to name an unchanged lineup. So it gives me the sense that he does want to try and keep it as consistent as possible. So if it's just Pedro out, Lincoln in, I think that might be the way we go. But yeah, you backing us for 4 points or more likely the 3 points?
3. I'm confident for 3, but knowing my luck, it'll be like we'll lose to Oxford and somehow like upset West Brom. But either way, if we get 3 points out of the 2 games, I'll be pretty happy.
I think, we're starting to get to a point where I'm like, look, now that we've beaten Plymouth in particular, I know we've still got Luton and Derby to come, which are probably the more important ones to win. If we beat Oxford or if we beat West Brom, for me, like 3 points is just as important either way, and just keeps the points tally ticking over. Yeah, I'd probably see 3 points out of these two games. I think it's interesting, I guess, Pedro being out, he hasn't scored that many goals recently, so it's funny that he did finally score against Bristol City right before getting suspended. But, you'd back, like, if Crooks is fit, if, Gelhardt can keep his form going, Kamara now looking a bit brighter with a goal and an assist in these two games. There's a few players starting to pop up with a little bit of form and confidence, which should hopefully help paper over that. So, look, I think Oxford's a massive opportunity. Go and get the 3 points there and then try and kick on against West Brom. But I think it's been a pretty terrific week for us and really sort of sets us up to finish this season pretty strongly.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Long may it continue. That's all I can say.
Yeah, long may it continue. Well, look, thank you for joining me for this one, Dan.
No worries.
And thanks, everyone, for listening in. We'll be back next week, hopefully reviewing another 4 points or more captured from these two games. But until then, come on, City.